Captain Jake Harrison stared out at the endless black void from the bridge of the UES Liberty. The stars looked peaceful from here, but Jake knew better. He had spent 15 years flying between human colonies, carrying supplies and messages, watching the alien ships that always seemed to be nearby. They called it protection, but it felt more like a cage. The year was 2387, and humans had been part of the Galactic Confederation for almost 200 years. The Treaty of Centauri Prime said humans were a protected species. They could live on 12 worlds, no more. They could build small ships for trade and defense, nothing bigger. The three elder races made these rules to keep the galaxy stable, they said. Jake pressed a button on his console. Liberty to New Denver Control, requesting docking permission. A tired voice answered back. Permission granted, Liberty. Bay 7 is open. Good to see you again, Jake. New Denver was one of the outer colonies, far from Earth and the core worlds. The people there worked hard mining rare metals and growing food in underground farms. They were tough people who asked few questions about the ships that came and went. As the Liberty settled into the docking bay, Jake noticed something odd. The usual alien observation post on the nearby moon was dark. No lights, no signals, nothing. In 15 years of flying this route, Jake had never seen the Vortex station go silent. His first officer, Lieutenant Ben Carter, walked up beside him. Captain, the harbor master wants to see you right away. Says it's important. Jake nodded and made his way through the station corridors. New Denver Control was a small room filled with old computers and coffee cups. Harbor Master Tom Wilson looked worried. Jake, thank God you're here, Tom said. We found something 3 days ago. A ship drifting in the outer system. It's not human, but it's not Vorthak or Namari either. The design is completely unknown. Jake raised an eyebrow. Did you report it to the Confederation? That's just it, Tom said. We tried, but all our long-range communications are being jammed. We can't reach Earth or any other human world. We can only talk to ships that come close to the system. This was getting stranger by the minute. Jake followed Tom to a secure storage bay where they had brought the alien ship. It was small, maybe the size of a shuttle, and its hull was covered in strange symbols. The metal looked old, very old. We managed to get inside, Tom explained. The ship's computer is still working, but barely. It's full of recordings, Jake. Messages from species I've never heard of. They climbed inside the cramped vessel. The control systems were designed for beings with 4 arms and large eyes. Everything was covered in dust, but the main computer screen still glowed with a faint blue light. Tom activated the first recording. A hologram appeared, showing a creature that looked like a cross between a bird and a lizard. It spoke in a language Jake didn't recognize, but the computer provided a translation. To whoever finds this message, know that we are the Zalani. We were a peaceful people who lived on 7 worlds in the outer spiral. The Confederation came to us 50 years ago, offering protection and guidance. We believed them. We signed their treaty. We limited our growth, our weapons, our dreams. And now they come to kill us all. Jake felt his blood run cold. The hologram continued. The Vorthak, Namari, and Kethmori have done this before. They find young species, offer them protection, limit their development, and then eliminate them when it suits their purposes. We are not the first, and we will not be the last. They told us we had violated the treaty, that we were a threat to galactic peace. The truth is we had done nothing wrong except exist. More recordings followed. Different species, different voices, but the same story. Each one spoke of treaties, protection, and eventual betrayal. Each one ended the same way, with entire civilizations wiped from existence. Jake's hands shook as he watched the final recording. This one showed a creature that looked almost human, with pale skin and large eyes. My name is Researcher Ken of the Aldery Republic. If you are watching this, then you are likely the next target. The pattern is always the same. First, they isolate you from the rest of the galaxy, then they study your weaknesses. Finally, they create a reason to declare you a threat. The biological weapons come first, hidden in medical supplies and trade goods. The fleets follow after your defenses are crippled. Do not trust them. Do not believe their promises. Fight while you still can." Jake and Tom sat in silence for a long moment. Finally, Jake spoke. "How many recordings are there?" 47 different species, Tom replied, all extinct. All destroyed by the same 3 races that rule the Confederation. Jake's mind raced. If this was true, then humanity was not protected at all. They were being prepared for slaughter, just like all the others. The limited military, the restricted expansion, the constant surveillance, it all made sense now. "We need to get this information to Earth," Jake said, "right now." "The jamming is still active," Tom reminded him. "But you might be able to get through if you jump to the edge of the system and broadcast from there." Jake was already moving toward his ship. "Load everything onto a data core. Every recording, every file, everything. I'll get this to Admiral Carter if it's the last thing I do." 2 hours later, the Liberty jumped out of the New Denver system. Jake pushed his ship's engines as hard as they would go, racing toward Earth with the most important cargo he had ever carried. Behind him, the alien observation post on the moon flickered back to life. On Earth, Admiral Lisa Carter was having her own problems. For months, she had been receiving disturbing reports from human colonies. Alien ships were appearing in systems where they had no business being. Defense satellites were failing for unknown reasons. Medical supplies from Confederation sources were causing strange illnesses. Dr. Kevin Brooks had been analyzing these medical supplies in his laboratory. What he found made his stomach turn. Hidden in vaccines and medicines were microscopic machines designed to attack human DNA. They were slow-acting and subtle, but deadly. "Lisa, you need to see this," Kevin said as he called the Admiral to his lab. "These aren't medical supplies. They're weapons." Admiral Carter looked at the data on Kevin's screen. The evidence was clear. The Confederation was slowly poisoning the human population, preparing them for something terrible. "How long do we have?" she asked. Kevin ran some calculations. "At the current rate of distribution, maybe 6 months before the effects become widespread. Maybe less if they increase the dosage." That's when Jake Harrison's message arrived. The data from the alien ship confirmed their worst fears. Humanity was not protected by the Confederation. They were the next target in a genocide that had been going on for thousands of years. Admiral Carter called an emergency meeting of Earth's military leaders. In a secure bunker deep underground, she shared the terrible truth. The Treaty of Centauri Prime was not protection. It was preparation for extinction. "Gentlemen," she said to the assembled officers, "the question is not whether we should break the treaty. The question is whether we can survive what comes next." Outside, alien ships continued their quiet surveillance, unaware that their secret had been discovered. The galaxy's 3 elder races had made their plans carefully as they had so many times before. But they had made one critical mistake. They had given humanity 2 centuries to prepare, and humans had not wasted that time. The treaty was about to break, and hell would follow. Admiral Lisa Carter stood in a room that officially did not exist. 300 meters below the surface of Earth, behind walls that could stop nuclear weapons, she activated Protocol 7. Only 12 people in the entire human military knew. This protocol existed, and half of them were already dead from old age. "Authorization code Delta 779, she spoke into the secure communicator. Across human space, hidden signals began to wake up systems that had been sleeping for decades. Colonel Ryan Murphy received the first activation signal at what appeared to be a simple mining operation on Titan. He had been waiting 20 years for this moment. The miners around him were not really miners at all. They were some of humanity's best soldiers, disguised as workers while they maintained weapons that could level cities. "All teams, this is Murphy," he said into his communicator. "The sleeping giant wakes up today. Begin activation sequence Alpha." Across the solar system, similar scenes played out. The research station near Jupiter began extending weapon arrays that had been hidden inside fake communication dishes. The asteroid mining Ships in the belt shed their outer hulls to reveal the sleek lines of destroyers. Trading vessels throughout. Human space opened secret compartments filled with missiles and energy weapons. Dr. Kevin Brooks worked frantically in his laboratory, racing against time to create countermeasures for the alien bioweapons. His team had identified the delivery method now. The Confederation was using routine medical shipments to poison human colonies slowly. Each shipment contained more of the deadly microscopic machines. "Doctor, we have a problem," his assistant called out. The automated medical supply ship to New Chicago launched this morning. According to the manifest, it's carrying enough concentrated bioweapon to kill everyone on the planet within a week. Kevin grabbed his communicator. "Carter, we need to intercept the medical ship heading to New Chicago right now. It's not medicine anymore, it's a planet killer." Admiral Carter was already coordinating the response. "Murphy, I need your fastest ship to intercept a medical transport. You have 4 hours before it reaches New Chicago." Colonel Murphy looked at the disguised warship that had been posing as a cargo hauler for 15 years. "Roger that, Admiral. The Falcon is launching now." The ship that lifted off from Titan looked like any other cargo vessel from the outside. But inside, Commander Beth Davis pushed engines that could outrun anything the Confederation had ever built. The medical transport never saw her coming. "Medical transport, this is Commander Davis of the UES Falcon. Cut your engines and prepare to be boarded." The alien crew aboard the transport refused to comply. They tried to run, but their ship was designed for cargo, not speed. Davis caught them 3 hours from New Chicago and disabled their engines. With a single precise shot, what her boarding team found inside made them sick. The cargo hold was filled with medical supplies that glowed with an eerie green light. Each container held enough bioweapon to kill millions of humans. The alien crew carried suicide devices rather than be captured alive. Meanwhile, Captain Jake Harrison was racing back to New Denver with evacuation ships. He had convinced Admiral Carter to let him warn the outer colonies personally. When he arrived, he found the system under attack. 3 massive Vorthok ships hung in space around New Denver like hungry sharks. Their crystalline hulls reflected the light of the system's sun as they positioned themselves to begin bombardment. The small defense platforms around the colony were already burning wreckage. "All civilian ships, this is Captain Harrison," Jake broadcast on all frequencies. "Emergency evacuation is in progress. Proceed to the following coordinates immediately." The evacuation was chaos. Cargo ships, passenger vessels, and even small personal craft rushed to get people off the planet. The Vorthak ships seemed content to wait, as if they enjoyed watching the panic they had caused. Jake managed to get 3,000 people aboard various ships before the Vorthak commander sent a message to the colony. "Humans of New Denver, you have violated the Treaty of Centauri Prime by harboring dangerous technology. Your settlement is now classified as a military target. You have 1 hour to surrender all weapons and technology to Confederation forces." The colony administrator, a tough woman named Mary Johnson, sent back their reply. "We have no weapons beyond basic defense systems, and our technology is all approved by Confederation standards. We demand to speak with a neutral arbitrator." The Vorthak commander's response was to begin firing on the planet's surface. Beams of pure energy turned buildings into vapor and people into ash. The bombardment continued for 6 hours until nothing remained alive on New Denver's surface. Jake watched the destruction from his ship, filled with refugees who had lost everything. The Vorthak had not even bothered to check for weapons or dangerous technology. They had come to kill, nothing more. On Earth, Ambassador Helen Price stood before the Confederation Council in an emergency session. The 3 elder races sat in their elevated positions, looking down at the humans with cold alien eyes. "The human colony at New Denver has been sterilized for treaty violations," announced the Vorthak representative. "All human military vessels must report for inspection within 72 hours. Any ship that fails to comply will be considered hostile." Ambassador Price had been preparing for this moment her entire career. She stood tall and looked directly at each of the alien representatives as she spoke. Members of the Council, humanity has honored every aspect of the Treaty of Centauri Prime for 193 years. We have restricted our expansion, limited our military, and cooperated with all Confederation directives. The attack on New Denver was unprovoked and illegal under galactic law. The Nimari representative spoke next, its voice like gas escaping from a vent. Humans have been developing prohibited weapons and harboring dangerous technology. Evidence has been provided to this council. Price smiled coldly. Then present this evidence for examination. Allow neutral parties to investigate your claims. Follow the legal procedures established by this very council. The three alien representatives exchanged glances. They had not expected the humans to demand due process. Their previous victims had either surrendered immediately or fought back in panic. Humans were doing neither. The evidence is classified for security reasons, the Kethmori delegate said. The council has voted to require immediate human disarmament. Price looked around the chamber at the other species represented in the council. Most of them looked uncomfortable with the proceedings. They had seen this pattern before, though none dared to speak against the three dominant races. Then humanity respectfully withdraws from the Galactic Confederation, Price announced. We will not disarm based on secret evidence and illegal demands. The Treaty of Centauri Prime is hereby declared null and void. The reaction was immediate. Alarms began sounding throughout the station. Security forces moved to arrest the human delegation. But Price and her team were already walking toward their ship, protected by diplomatic immunity that even the elder races dared not violate openly. As their ship left the station, Price sent a coded message to Earth. The die is cast, may God help us all. Admiral Carter received the message in her command bunker. Around her, screens showed the positions of hidden human ships throughout the galaxy. For 2 centuries, humanity had pretended to be weak and helpless, while secretly preparing for this day. All units, this is Carter. Execute Protocol 7 immediately. The treaty is broken. Repeat, the treaty is broken. Across human space, disguised mining ships revealed weapon arrays that had never appeared in any Confederation database. Hidden bases activated shield generators and missile systems. Trade vessels shed their peaceful exteriors to show the warships. They really were. The 3 elder races had given humanity 200 years to prepare for war while believing they were keeping them contained and helpless. They were about to learn the price of that mistake. The galaxy watched as humanity's true fleet emerged from hiding. The elder races realized they had made a critical error, but by then it was far too late. The humans had answered their threat, and hell was about to follow. The war began badly for humanity. 3 massive alien fleets moved toward human space like hungry wolves. Each fleet contained more ships than humanity's entire official navy. The Vorthak brought crystal ships that could slice through planets. The Nimari deployed gas-based vessels that could hide in any atmosphere. The Kethmori used living ships that could heal themselves and think faster than any computer. Commander Amy Foster watched the enemy approach from her hiding place deep inside the gas giant Kepler 442b. Her ship, the Defiant, was designed specifically for this environment. While the Nimari felt safe in the crushing atmosphere and acid storms, they had no idea that humans had been preparing to fight them here for 50 years. All units, this is Foster, she whispered into her communicator. The fish are swimming into our net. Begin Phase 1. Around her, 12 other human ships rose from the depths of the gas giant. They had been waiting here for weeks, their hulls specially designed to withstand pressures that would crush normal vessels. The Nimari harvesting operation above them had no idea. Death was rising from below. The human ships burst through the cloud layers like rockets. Their weapons were designed to work in the thick atmosphere where normal energy beams would scatter uselessly. Solid projectiles moving at incredible speeds tore through the Nimari vessels before they could react. Target the processing plants. First, Foster ordered, then the escort ships. The battle lasted only minutes. The Nimari had never fought an enemy that could operate in their safe environment. Their ships were built for gas harvesting, not combating crushing atmospheres. When it was over, the entire harvesting operation was burning wreckage falling toward the planet's core. Foster sent her report to Admiral Carter. Phase 1 complete. The Nimari know we can reach them anywhere now. On Earth, Dr. Kevin Brooks was deploying his own weapon. The alien bioweapons designed to kill humans had been turned into something far worse for their creators. Brooks had spent months reverse engineering the microscopic machines, learning how they worked, and then improving them. The delivery system is ready, he told Admiral Carter. Every Confederation medical shipment, every trade vessel, every diplomatic pouch we can reach. They wanted to poison us slowly. Let's return the favor. The first results came from a Vorthak mining colony near the edge of their space. The crystalline beings began developing cracks in their body structures. Their perfect geometric form started to crumble as the modified bioweapon attacked the quantum bonds that held their bodies. Together, the Nimari were hit even harder. Their gas-based biology made them vulnerable to attacks on their respiratory systems. Entire crews began choking on their own atmosphere as their breathing organs failed. The Kethmori, with their complex neural networks, suffered the worst effects. The bioweapon caused their brain-to-brain connections to overload. Some went insane. Others fell into comas they would never wake from, while Brooks deployed his biological warfare. General Pete Collins prepared to defend the Sol system. Intelligence reports showed 3 massive enemy fleets converging on Earth. Each fleet alone could destroy every human ship in existence, or so the aliens believed. Sir, long-range sensors show the Vorthak fleet entering the outer system, reported. His aide, 200 ships, including their flagship Crystalline Death. Collins nodded grimly. What about the others? Nimari fleet approaching from the North Pole, 150 vessels. Kethmori are coming from the galactic plane, about 200 ships. They plan to hit us from 3 directions at once. The alien commanders were confident in their overwhelming numbers. They had used this same strategy to destroy 47 other species. Surround the enemy homeworld, demonstrate superior force, demand surrender, and then kill everyone anyway. But as the 3 fleets moved into attack position, they noticed something strange. The human defenses seemed too light. A few orbital platforms, some patrol ships, nothing that could seriously threaten such massive fleets. That's when Earth's moon began to move. Luna had been humanity's greatest secret for over a century. The mining operations on the surface were real, but they only touched the outer layers. Below the surface, the entire satellite had been hollowed out and converted into a fortress that could fight entire fleets. Luna base to all enemy vessels, General Collins broadcast on all frequencies. You are entering a restricted space around a protected world. Turn back now or face the consequences. The Vorthak commander responded with typical arrogance. Humans, you cannot threaten us with your primitive weapons. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick. Collins smiled as he pressed the activation button. Luna base, you are authorized to fire at will. The moon's surface split open in dozens of places. Weapon systems that had been hidden for decades rose into firing position. Energy cannons that drew power from fusion reactors in the lunar core charged up with a sound like thunder. The first volley destroyed 30 Vorthak ships instantly. Beams of pure energy, focused through crystalline lenses, stolen and improved from crashed alien vessels, cut through the enemy hulls like they were made of paper. The second volley targeted the Nimari fleet. Magnetic containment fields projected from Luna base disrupted the gas-based ships, causing them to lose cohesion and scatter into space like smoke. The Kethmori ships tried to retreat, but the third volley was already on its way. Weapons designed specifically to overload organic neural networks sent cascading failures through their living vessels. Ships that had been thinking creatures moments before became mindless hulks drifting in space. Impossible, the Vorthak commander transmitted. Your technology is restricted by treaty. These weapons should not exist. Collins replied with cold satisfaction. The treaty is broken, remember? We've had 200 years to prepare for this day while you thought we were helpless pets in a cage. But the real surprise was yet to come. Captain Jake Harrison, now promoted to admiral after his actions at New Denver, had been tracking something the alien fleets had missed. Intelligence from the derelict ship had provided coordinates for the most important target in the galaxy. "Admiral Carter, I found it," Jake reported from his flagship. "The Nexus, the Confederation's central command station. It's hidden in the galactic core, just like the recording said." The Nexus was a massive space station that orbited a black hole, drawing power from the accretion disk around it. Every major decision in the galaxy came from this station. Every genocide, every treaty, every act of oppression had been planned here. "How many ships are guarding it?" Carter asked. "Thousands," Jake replied. "Maybe tens of thousands. It's the most heavily defended location in the galaxy." Carter looked at the tactical display showing the alien fleets in retreat around Earth. Luna Base had broken their attack, but this was only the beginning. As long as the Nexus existed, the enemy could coordinate their response and bring in reinforcements from across the galaxy. "Jake, pick your best people. We're going to cut the head off this snake. The mission would be nearly impossible." The galactic core was filled with radiation storms, gravitational anomalies, and space-time distortions that could tear ships apart. No one had ever successfully attacked the Nexus because no one had ever been able to reach it, but humans had spent 2 centuries studying their enemies and their technology. They had learned to operate in gas giants, to fight in crushing atmospheres, to hide weapons in plain sight. Most importantly, they had learned that the galaxy's 3 elder races were not as invincible as they pretended to be. As the enemy fleets regrouped and called for reinforcements, humanity prepared for the most desperate mission in their history. The Nexus held the key to victory or defeat. If they could destroy it, the war might end. If they failed, humanity would face the combined might of the entire galaxy. Admiral Carter looked at the star charts showing the route to the galactic core. It would take everything they had learned and more. But they had come too far to turn back now. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you cornered humanity and gave them nothing left to lose. Commander Sarah Walsh had never seen anything like the galactic core. Her ship, the Vengeance, shook violently as gravitational waves from the massive black hole twisted space around them. The radiation levels would have killed an unprotected human in seconds, but her crew wore suits powered by technology stolen and improved from dozens of alien species. "Navigation, what's our position?" she asked, gripping her command chair as another gravity wave hit them. "Lieutenant Commander Tony." Rivera checked his instruments. 2 light years from the target, Commander. The Nexus should be just beyond that radiation storm." Sarah looked at her small fleet. 12 ships, the best humanity had to offer, carrying the most advanced weapons they had ever built. Against them waited the most heavily defended station in the galaxy, protected by technology that had ruled space for thousands of years. Dr. Kevin Brooks sat in the science station, monitoring the bioweapon he had spent months perfecting. This version was designed specifically for the Nexus, based on intelligence from the derelict ship that showed the station was partially alive, its systems integrated with Kethmori neural tissue. "Kevin, how long before the weapon takes effect?" Sarah asked. "If we can get it into the station's central systems, maybe an hour," he replied. "But first we have to get through those defenses." The Nexus appeared on their screens like a metal moon. It was huge, easily the size of Earth's largest cities, spinning slowly around the black hole that powered it. Energy fields surrounded the station in layers, each one capable of destroying entire fleets. "My God," Tony whispered. "How are we supposed to get through that?" Sarah studied the defensive grid. She had spent months planning this attack, learning everything the derelict ship's data could tell her about the station's design. The Nexus had one weakness that its builders never expected anyone to exploit. The station draws power from the black hole's accretion disk, she explained to her crew. All that energy has to flow through specific channels. If we can disrupt those channels at exactly the right moment, the defensive grid will fail for maybe 30 seconds. 30 seconds to penetrate the most defended station in the galaxy? Tony asked. It's enough, Sarah said with more confidence than she felt. Back in human space, the war was reaching its peak. General Pete Collins coordinated desperate holding actions as enemy reinforcements poured in from across the galaxy. Every human colony was under attack. Every ship pushed to its breaking point. Sir, New Boston is under siege, his aide reported. They're requesting immediate evacuation. Collins looked at the tactical display. Red markers showed enemy fleets at every human world. They were outnumbered 1,000 to 1, but somehow they were still fighting. Tell New Boston to hold position. The Memphis and her escort group will reach them in 6 hours. The Memphis was one of the disguised mining ships that had been converted for combat. Her captain, Maria Santos, had been pretending to haul asteroid ore for 15 years while secretly maintaining enough firepower to level planets. Maria, you need to buy New Boston some time, Collins transmitted. Whatever it takes. Captain Santos looked at her crew of former miners who had become some of humanity's fiercest warriors. You heard the general. New Boston needs us. Time to show these aliens what human miners can do. The Memphis dropped out of hyperspace right in the middle of the enemy fleet surrounding New Boston. The aliens had expected another desperate evacuation attempt. Instead, they faced a ship that had been specifically designed to fight multiple opponents at once. Santos opened fire on 6 enemy vessels simultaneously. Her weapons had been disguised as mining lasers and/or processing equipment, but they packed more punch than most military ships. The first salvo destroyed 4 enemy vessels and crippled 2 more. This is Captain Santos to New Boston, she broadcast. Begin evacuation immediately. We'll hold them as long as we can. The battle around New Boston lasted 8 hours. The Memphis fought like a wounded tiger, taking hits that would have destroyed any normal ship while still protecting the evacuation transports. When it was over, 30,000 civilians had escaped, but the Memphis was a burning wreck, drifting in space. Meanwhile, Sarah Walsh's strike force had reached the outer defenses of the Nexus. The first energy barrier stretched out like a wall of pure light, crackling with power that could vaporize entire fleets. All ships, prepare for synchronized attack, Sarah ordered. We get one chance at this. Her ships spread out in a precise formation, each one targeting a specific power conduit that fed energy to the defensive grid. The timing had to be perfect, down to the microsecond. Fire on my mark, Sarah said, watching her instruments as the power flow from the black hole reached its peak. 3, 2, 1, mark. 12 ships fired simultaneously at 12 different targets. For a split second, the power flow to the defensive grid was disrupted. The energy barriers flickered and died. All ships, full speed ahead, Sarah shouted. We have 30 seconds. The Vengeance and her escorts raced through the gap in the defenses, their engines pushed beyond safe limits. Behind them, the energy barriers came back online, trapping them inside the station's defensive perimeter. Well, that's it, Tony said grimly. We're either going to win this or die trying. The inner defenses of the Nexus were even worse than the outer barriers. Automated weapon systems tracked their movement, filling space with energy beams and missile swarms. 3 human ships were destroyed in the first minute of the final approach, but Sarah had one more surprise. The derelict ship's data had included detailed schematics of the station's design, including the location of a maintenance shaft that led directly to the central core. Tony, take us into that shaft. It's going to be a tight fit. The Vengeance barely squeezed into the maintenance tunnel, her hull scraping against the walls as she pushed deeper into the station. Behind her, the remaining human ships followed in single file. Their crews knowing they were probably flying to their deaths, the tunnel ended at a massive chamber in the heart of the Nexus. This was the station's brain, a writhing mass of organic tissue and mechanical systems that controlled the entire Confederation. 3 alien commanders stood waiting for them, the supreme leaders of the species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia. Humans, the Vorthok leader spoke, its crystalline form glowing with internal light. You have come far to die in this place. Sarah looked at the three beings who had ordered the genocide of 47 species. We didn't come here to die. We came here to end your reign of terror. Dr. Brooks was already working at his console, releasing the bioweapon into the station's organic systems. The effect was immediate. The living portions of the Nexus began to convulse and writhe as the weapon spread through the neural networks. Impossible, the Namari leader gasped as its own body began to fail. The station is protected against all known biological agents. This isn't a known agent, Kevin replied coldly. We made it specifically for you using your own weapons as a template. The Kethmori commander tried to interface with the station's computer systems, but the bioweapon had already corrupted the neural pathways. Instead of obeying commands, the station began to attack its own creators. Automated systems turned on the alien crews. Life support failed in sections housing enemy personnel. The massive structure began to tear itself apart as its biological and mechanical components went to war with each other. Sarah watched the destruction with grim satisfaction. This is for New Denver. This is for all the species you murdered. This is what happens when you push humanity too far. The three alien leaders died as their own station killed them, victims of the same kind of systematic extermination they had inflicted on others. Around them, the Nexus continued its self-destruction, sending shock waves through the galactic command structure across space. Alien fleets suddenly found themselves without orders or coordination. Some continued fighting, others tried to retreat, and many simply stopped in confusion as their chain of command collapsed. Sarah looked out at the black hole that had powered the station for so long. Soon, the Nexus would fall into that hungry darkness, taking with it the dreams of galactic domination that had lasted for thousands of years. All ships prepare for immediate departure, she ordered. Our work here is done. The few surviving human ships fought their way out of the dying station, racing to escape before the final collapse. Behind them, the Nexus fell toward the black hole, its death screams echoing across subspace as the old order finally came to an end. The destruction of the Nexus sent shockwaves across the galaxy. Within hours, alien fleets that had been fighting with deadly precision began to fall apart. Some commanders tried to continue the war, others attempted to flee to distant systems, and many simply surrendered to the nearest human forces. Admiral Lisa Carter stood in the command center on Earth, watching reports flood in from across human space. The three elder races had lost their central command, but they still had millions of ships and billions of soldiers. The war was far from over. Admiral, we're receiving surrender offers from 12 Namari fleet commanders, her aide reported. They're requesting safe passage to neutral territory. Carter studied the tactical displays. Even with the Nexus gone, humanity was still vastly outnumbered. Every victory came at a terrible cost, and they were running out of ships and people to crew them. What's the status of the Vorthak home fleet? She asked. Still fighting, ma'am? They've regrouped around their homeworld and are calling it a final stand. General Collins estimates it would take everything we have left to break through their defenses. Carter nodded grimly. The choice before her would define humanity's future. They could spend their remaining strength destroying the Vorthak homeworld, but that would leave them vulnerable to counterattacks from other alien forces. Or they could try something that had never been attempted in galactic history. Dr. Kevin Brooks entered the command center, carrying a datapad with his latest research. His bioweapons had been devastatingly effective, but he had been working on something else entirely. Lisa, I think I have a solution, he said quietly. The neural modification virus I developed doesn't have to be lethal. I can adjust it to suppress the aggressive patterns in their brain chemistry instead of killing them. Carter raised an eyebrow. You want to change how they think? The three elder races have been hardwired for conquest and domination for thousands of years, Kevin explained. But that's just brain chemistry. We can modify it, make them less aggressive, more cooperative. It would be permanent, but they would still be themselves in every other way. The idea was staggering. Instead of genocide, humanity could offer rehabilitation. Instead of revenge, they could choose transformation. Admiral Jake Harrison's voice. came over the communicator from his flagship near Vorthak space. Carter, we have a situation here. The Vorthak are preparing to use some kind of planet-killer weapon. Our scouts report massive energy readings from their homeworld. Carter made her decision. Jake, hold your position but do not attack. Kevin, how fast can you deploy the modified virus? Give me 6 hours and I can have it ready for deployment through their atmospheric systems. Kevin replied. Meanwhile, at the edge of Vorthak space, Commander Amy Foster was preparing for what might be humanity's final battle. The enemy had pulled back every ship, every weapon, every soldier to defend their crystalline homeworld. The planet itself glowed with internal energy, preparing to unleash a weapon that could destroy entire star systems. All ships, this is Foster, she transmitted, to the human fleet. Intelligence reports the Vorthak are charging a stellar disruption device. If they fire that thing, it could cause our sun to go supernova. The human fleet was small compared to the enemy forces, but they were no longer the helpless species that had signed the Treaty of Centauri. Prime, 2 centuries of preparation had given them weapons and tactics the aliens had never imagined. Ma'am, incoming transmission from the Vorthak commander, her communications officer reported. The holographic image of a massive crystalline being appeared on the bridge. Its body was cracked and scarred from the bioweapon attacks, but its voice still carried the arrogance of a species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia. Human commander, you have won a temporary victory by destroying our command station. But we still possess the power to sterilize every world in your pathetic empire. Surrender now, and we will grant you a quick death. Foster looked at the alien with cold hatred. This creature's species had planned to murder every human in existence, just as they had murdered 47 other civilizations, but humanity had learned something important during their long captivity under the treaty. Vorthak commander, your time is over. You've spent so long believing you were superior that you forgot what it means to face an enemy with nothing left to lose. The transmission ended, and both fleets prepared for battle. But before the first shots could be fired, Dr. Brooks' modified virus began to take effect. Deployed through nanoscale delivery systems that had been hidden in trade goods for months, the virus spread through the Vorthak population like wildfire. The change was immediate and dramatic. Vorthak commanders who had been preparing to fight to the death suddenly began questioning their orders. The aggressive impulses that had driven their species for thousands of years simply faded away, replaced by confusion and something they had never experienced before, doubt. This is Vorthak Fleet Commander Zelther to human forces, came a transmission that shocked everyone. We request negotiations. The stellar weapon has been powered down. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy as the modified virus spread through Namari and surviving Kethmori populations. The 3 species that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia suddenly found themselves incapable of the casual cruelty that had defined their existence. General P. Collins coordinated the ceasefire negotiations from Luna Base. Representatives from dozens of species arrived to witness something unprecedented in galactic history. Former enemies sitting down to talk instead of fight. The War Crimes Tribunal will take years to complete, he told Admiral Carter. We've identified the locations of 17 species that were supposedly extinct but were actually being held as slaves. There are prison planets, forced labor camps, entire populations that have been hidden away for centuries. Carter nodded. The scope of the Elder Race's crimes was staggering. But with their aggressive programming neutralized, the former rulers were actively helping to locate and free their victims. Ambassador Helen Price found herself in the unexpected position of mediating between species that had been trying to kill each other just weeks before. The modified Vorthak, Namari, and Kethmori were genuinely remorseful about their past actions, though they struggled to understand why they had ever thought genocide was acceptable. It's like waking up from a long nightmare, explained the former Vorthak commander. We remember everything we did, but we cannot comprehend why we thought it was right. The new galactic government took shape slowly. Instead of the authoritarian confederation, they created a democratic assembly where every species had an equal voice. The headquarters was built from the wreckage of the old Nexus, transformed from a symbol of oppression into a beacon of cooperation. Captain Maria Santos, who had given her life defending New Boston, was posthumously awarded the new galaxy's highest honor. Her ship, the Memphis, was rebuilt and became the flagship of the Galactic Peacekeeping Force, a multi-species organization dedicated to preventing future genocides. 5 years after the war's end, Admiral Carter walked through the memorial hall on the new capital station. The walls displayed the names of every being who had died in the conflict, both human and alien. The cost had been enormous, but from that sacrifice had emerged something unprecedented, a galaxy where strength served justice, instead of oppression. Dr. Brooks had continued his research, but now he worked on healing instead of harming. His medical advances had added decades to the lifespans of a dozen species and eliminated diseases that had plagued the galaxy for millennia. Jake Harrison, now an elder statesman, often reflected on the irony of their situation. The elder races had tried to prevent humanity from becoming a threat to galactic stability, but their oppression had ensured that humanity would indeed reshape the galaxy, just not in the way anyone had expected. The galaxy had learned a terrible lesson about what happened when peace failed and treaties were broken. But they had also learned something else, that even from the depths of hell, redemption was possible for those brave enough to choose it. Humanity had answered the call to war when pushed beyond endurance, but in the end they had chosen to answer the call to peace as well. The galaxy would never be the same, and perhaps that was exactly what it needed.